last year. But, man, who cares about that? This is the present, so he came through when he needed to today.
Unbelievable. Get in the comments again. I beg of you, if you're out there, we want to hear from you. And then Verlander gets out of 2 major jams, thanks to double plays in the first and second inning. Stephen, I felt pretty good after JV escaped back-to-back innings.
Well, this is vintage Verlander, Robert, especially in the postseason. The first couple of innings, he's a little shaky. And then as the middle innings come, that's when he starts warming up. I mean, he threw 55 pitches in those first 3 innings. Otherwise, he could have probably pitched the 7th. I had somebody ask me, well, why didn't he pitch the 7th? Well, he threw too many pitches those first 3 innings. He might have. And, he didn't even get a first pitch strike on a batter until the 3rd inning. So that's indicative of his command problems, particularly with his fastball the first couple of innings. He put one right down the middle to Julian in the 2nd inning when he hit that double. But, yeah, as the game cruised along, Verlander became the Verlander we know and love.
Yeah, and the broadcast crew, well, at least I think it was Wainwright, at least was talking about how maybe you should have left Verlander in there when Neris struggled. We'll get to Neris later in the show. But, this is what you've been doing all year. Neris in the 7th, Abreu in the 8th. I mean, Presley in the 9th. I mean, if you watch the Astros, this is what they do. That just shows you don't watch the Astros. You don't know how it goes. And Verlander, he was at about 100 pitches. And I know he looked great, guys that are watching this game from your broadcast booth. But I mean, Stephen, this guy's 40 years old. We got to remember this.
Yeah. And you know what? You want to save him. You still want to at least have him pretty rested for the next time he pitches, whenever that's going to be, whether it's in this series or, maybe in the ALCS, if they get that far. So you have to kind of think ahead a little bit as much as think about the present. And listen, Hector Neris, was having a great season. And of course he gave up those home runs, but you can't argue with what he's done. And Brian Abreu, he didn't give up any runs, but he made things a little exciting. So Dusty's going to do what he's been doing all season. He's going to bring the guys in the later innings that he trusts.
Yeah, lots to complain about Dusty in the regular season, but it just seems like he turns it up a level, or at least has recently in the postseason. And a couple of fast facts on Verlander. He had not induced 2 ground ball double plays in a regular season game since May 10th, 2022 against the Twins.
Minnesota. Yeah, in a postseason game. I think he only had 8 double plays through the whole regular season this year, Robert. I mean, he doesn't induce a lot of ground ball double plays like Frommer does, who's going to be pitching in game 2. So, yeah, to get 2 in the first 2 innings, and boy, were they needed, because, if the Twins had jumped out in front, who knows what would have happened after that.
Yeah, that's his first scoreless postseason start since game 1 of the 2019 Tampa series. He finished this game with 6 Ks, 4 hits in 6 innings. So Verlander, that's why you dealt for him. It works out perfectly. 3rd inning, after Bregman gets hit by a pitch, Ober throws a hanger to Yordan, just straight crush city, Stephen, into the left field seats.
You know what? I got to tell you something, Robert. As you know, I like to go back and forth between the Astros radio broadcasts and, the TV guys on the network. And right when Alvarez came to the plate, your good friend and mine, Steve Sparks of the Astros radio broadcast, said, Yordan is going to sit on a changeup. He's going to be looking for it. Well, the first pitch that Bailey threw was a fastball, and Alvarez didn't even flinch. He didn't even swing. And the next pitch was the changeup that he just hammered. I think it went like 396 feet or something like that. Hammered it. So Sparky was right. I mean, he was waiting for that changeup to happen.
Yeah, and it was not a good changeup. So let's go to the 5th inning. Alex Bregman singles, Yordan walks, but Tucker, a laser to third, looked like it could have been a missed opportunity right there. But Abreu, who's starting to earn Astros clutch city points here, he's starting to get the clutch points, although we're going to get this up later in the game. He reaches out, hits a tough pitch to pull down the left field line. I mean, that was a tough pitch that he hit on the outside off the plate. That scores Bregman.
Yeah, it's good to see not Altuve, Abreu, both those A's there. Yeah, it's good to see him warming up, and you just had to feel, especially like in that last series against the Diamondbacks, and the whole month of September. It's like, man, if Abreu can come through like that in the postseason. You know, the Astros offense is pretty potent, but to get him to hit in the postseason, man, they're going to be unstoppable. And he may not have been lights out through the whole day, but he did what he had to do in scoring Bregman.
So Chas McCormick follows Abreu with an RBI single, 5-0 Astros. This is a good time to mention. Dusty starts Chas over Dubon with Verlander on the mound. Dusty said, quote, "These guys are prone to strike out. Plus, they've got a lot of left-handed hitters, so they'll probably hit the ball more to left center than pull it." Dusty went on to say that Chas is a better matchup versus Ober, who throws a lot of changeups and breaking balls. How about that, Steven? Dusty brought us banana pudding.
He looked at some analytics, Robert, because you know what? He's right. The Twins have the third highest whiff rate in baseball. I mean, they have the fourth highest walk rate, but they strike out a lot. So he was right. And I guess, he did surprise a lot of us because I think we were all waiting to see the lineup card and figuring, well, Dubon's going to be in center field. Well, no. Nope, he decides not to do that. And it certainly paid off. Now, we did mention Abreu. You know, he did get tagged out going to third. Not really a smart play on that. He kind of ran us out of the inning, but at least he did score a run for us in that inning.
Yeah, that inning he did. I just want to get to the Abreu thing a little bit later because it's one of those things that that's annoyed me about this year's Astros. But let's go to the seventh inning. Hector Neris, you said it, Stephen. He's been clutch all year. It's a shocking implosion. Back-to-back homers, 2 terrible pitches. Neris hadn't given up 2 home runs in a game since 2018.
Yeah, well, when you think about how he gave them up, Robert, I mean, he hit Waldner to start the inning, and then the catcher, Ryan Jeffers, hit, it was just a bloop single to shallow right center. You know, it wasn't a hard hit ball, you know, and then I think it was Willie Castro that pinch hit for Micah Taylor. He got a strikeout of him, and then you struck out Julian, but, you know, then Polanco, right? Jorge Polanco comes up. It's that 3-run homer. And then Lewis, who, of course, has been money in the postseason for the Twins, you know, in the wild card series against the Blue Jays, he hits a homer. And all of a sudden, it's a game again. But again, Robert, it's a lot of it is how you start out the inning, whether it's a walk or, in this case, a hit by pitch. Then you get a bloop single where you got 2 runners in a position for somebody to hit a 3-run homer and get the Twins back in the ballgame.
The Astros, they left a lot of guys that, you know, had a first inning base runner because of Verlander. First inning base runner on the first guy, 3 straight innings, the first, second, and third inning, right?
Yeah, definitely. The first couple of, the first 3 innings, that's right. He had at least somebody on base, but he just wiggled out of trouble. Like, you know, the thing about Verlander, we will say, as shaky as he can be in the postseason sometimes, especially in the early innings, very seldom does the roof cave in for him. You know, he usually squeezes out of it with minimal to no damage, and that's certainly what he did today.
8th inning, Yordan keeps being the hero we all need. His second home run of the day. He goes Billy Hatcher high flagpole. I say that for all you 86 Astros fans, Stephen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just couldn't ask for more from this guy. And I know, you know, Reggie Jackson, who is a consultant for Jim Crane, you know, if Yordan keeps this up, if the Astros win another World Series, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but Reggie might have to relinquish that Mr. October title, Yordan, if he doesn't stop. So, but once again, that run is big because, you know, thankfully the Twins didn't score another run, but if they had, the game would have been tied. But what a big insurance run that was.
So then Abreu gets on, and it's just straight up laziness that he gets thrown out on that wild pitch. And I mean, this is the postseason. You can't take stuff for granted. You got to slide there. And Steven, it's one of my pet peeves all year with the Astros. And Abreu is a guy that can't afford to make these mistakes because of the stuff that he hasn't done this year. But this team, the base running just hasn't been the Astros base running that we're used to.
No, and the defense has definitely not played up to par. I mean, I don't mean in this game, but you kind of worried about the defense coming into the postseason. But yeah, Altuve has made his share of base running errors throughout the seasons, the last several seasons. Abreu, you know, I mentioned the one earlier where he got tagged out when the Astros were, getting a rally going, and ran them out of an inning. And then he's out trying to steal. As you said, he didn't slide, and Correa just slapped the tag on him, just pretty as you please. So, yeah, they didn't turn out to be costly base running mistakes by Abreu, but they could have.
Jose Abreu, some hit and miss in this game, but Brian Abreu comes in after Neris makes the mess and gets the Astros out of it in the 7th. And in the 8th, gives up a leadoff double to Correa, but comes up with a couple of big pitches to give Ryan Pressly a 2-run cushion. And you can't say enough about Brian Abreu this year.
Man, and I didn't think that he could follow up what he did last year quite the same way. Now, he got off, I think, to a little bit of a shaky start at the beginning of the season, but man, since the All-Star break, he's just been the Brian Abreu that we always knew he could be. We kept waiting for it to happen. It happened last year, and now it's happening again this year, especially late in the season and into the postseason.
Yeah, Ty says lazy Abreu. Speaking of the other Abreu, going back to our previous conversation, we got to make sure you get the right Abreu when you mention those two guys. But when Pressly comes in the 9th, usually I can't even look. He scares me to death, Stephen. But he had a rare Ryan Pressly 1, 2, 3 9th. We haven't seen a lot of that this year.
Yeah, and he helped his own cause because, Julian had that ground out that Pressly fielded. And I know that, as soon as that was over, it kind of scared me for a second because there was a meeting of the infielders there on the mound. You kind of hope everything's okay with Pressly. Then I realized, well, they're probably giving him a break because he had to race to first base. So, yeah, he helped his own cause in that inning. Hasn't been the Pressly that we're used to. So you're kind of on the edge of your seat with that, but he did what he needed to.
Anything else about this game that sticks out to you?
I think that, the Astros, and as nervous as you got with them coming into this series, the way they played at home, I mean, they just were so shaky at home, Robert. I just didn't, I know they're undefeated in opening game series in the last several years, but the way they played at home, it just really made me nervous. And it was good to see. I mean, the fans, I wouldn't say they were terrible, but they weren't exactly rocking the place out as far as I could tell. But they took care of business and got that game won. Winning game 2 would be so big because I'm telling you, those fans in Minnesota are going to be rocking. You saw they did in the Toronto series. So it was just big that the Astros got that win, and they really need to play like that at home, especially if they're going to have the home field advantage to get through this postseason. They've got to take advantage of it.
Yeah. And just a reminder, I put this out before this game and it sort of went viral. Stephen, I put this out on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I put this tweet out that said, for the current generation Astros fans who forget that you're spoiled, in the Astros' first 55 seasons, we witnessed 23 playoff wins and 0 World Series wins. In their last 6 years, you've seen 45, make that 46 now, playoff wins and 13 World Series wins. And I mean wins as in games, of course.
Games, right. No, then that kind of goes back to what we were saying at the top of the podcast that, man, as an Astros fan growing up in the 70s, I kept waiting and waiting and waiting for them to make the playoffs, much less go to the World Series. So it's just, we can get spoiled, but we got to remember where the Astros came from. And, everything goes in phases, Robert. I mean, look how much the Texans and the Rockets have stunk. And now, at least the Texans seem a bit more exciting. We haven't seen the Rockets, they haven't played yet. But everything kind of goes around in circles and goes in phases. And, enjoy this Astros ride now. Hopefully it will just keep going and going. But, let's not get too spoiled. Let's not forget where the team came from.
I said 8-0 in the postseason.
They're
game
actually 10-0.
And then somebody else has said they're 9-0. I'm looking at different media people.
They're 9-0 coming into this game. So I believe now with this win, they're 10-0.
Well, that now that's somebody. We're all confused. Look, they've either won 8, 9, or 10. First games in ALDSs, all of them. That's we need to get that back straight because apparently there's some confusion out there.
Yeah.
Well, just a couple of final thoughts. With Kendall Graveman not available because of an injury, were there any surprises, Stephen, on your postseason Astros roster?
No, not really. I mean, I think in a series like this, with it being 5 games, I think you're okay with 12 pitchers. I mean, you certainly want to have that extra pitcher if you get to the ALCS and the World Series. But no, I would say nothing really jumped out at me as far as this Astros roster and the way it was constructed and them only carrying 12 pitchers.
Yeah, and I guess my one bit of a, I don't know if you would call it a gripe, but I just wish there was a better option than John Singleton. If I'm not sure I want you to pinch hit for Maldi and you only play first base defensively, then why are you on a postseason roster?
Well, that's true, and you know something else too. You know, he could have pitch hit for Maldonado in the 8th inning. You kind of wondered, and some people I'm sure did wonder. But listen, they're not going to take Maldonado out in a close game, especially with his catching behind the plate. They don't have the confidence in Diaz to go behind the plate in a close game like that. So there's no way they're going to pitch for Maldi. So yeah, it's going to be very difficult for Diaz to get at bats. You know, unless you pinch hit him for McCormick or something like that, or you know, just have him DH and Brantley sit out and Yordan play left. You know, maybe you do that. But otherwise, yeah, it's going to be very difficult to get Diaz in a game. And as far as John Singleton, yeah, you know, what other options do you really have other than him?
Yeah, it just that's
Gray Kessinger? I mean, you know, that's not really much better.
yeah, he's on the roster. Gray's
He is on the roster. Right, right. The only other thing that I guess I was a little surprised that the Twins started Bailey Ober, but he has been pitching well. You know, in the llast 5 starts, I think he's 2-0 with a 3.15 ERA. The Astros didn't face him this season, but their hitters were hitting 333 against him. So, yeah, I was a little bit of I thought maybe they'd start Joe Ryan, but you know, I guess they decided to save him, you know, for later in the series.
Albert asks, is Brantley playing tomorrow also? Stephen, my answer is I assume so, because with Fromberg going, it's a ground ball pitcher, so you're not worried about Chaz's defense and center. And it just kind of got spelled out by Dusty that these guys are actually a good fit for Chaz in center because he doesn't see him having a lot of action in center field, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think you will see Brantley, and I may be in that pinch hit role. I think you want Yordan in left. I mean, that would be my guess. But yeah, absolutely. I think you're going to see his bat in the lineup as much as he can go. You know, the biggest question is, can he go through an entire postseason without having the soreness? And that's something you're just going to have to hold your breath on every day. But man, and how about Brantley stealing a base? How is that? You know, Uncle
goodness.
Mike's great with his bat, but man, hey, this guy contributes. Aren't you glad he's back? He even stole a base.
Yeah, I think somebody tweeted out yesterday, it might have been Adam Spillane or Adam Wexler or something, said, Brantley says he's 100%. He's fine. He's ready to go, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, you can't fool me on this. Let me just wait till tomorrow and then wait till the next day and then wait till the day after that.
Yeah, it's got to be a day-to-day thing with him because you just don't know. But man, it's just great to have him back in that lineup because there for a while you were wondering, you know, he kept having the relapses. You were wondering if he'd even be able to play at all this season. So it's just good that he can save the best for last. That's what you want to do.
All right. I've got one last public service announcement for this show. If you were at Minute Maid Park and booed Carlos Correa, then you officially forego your Astros fan card. The guy was a leader in the greatest golden era in team history. We might not have the Fromber that we have today if it wasn't for Carlos Correa. Remember that moment? He defended the flag during the scandal, stood up for the Astros players, defended the Astros, you know, was a hardliner as far as just, you know, being there and being accountable. And he desperately wanted to stay in Houston during free agency. Stephen, what's the hate?
Yeah, look, this is the nature of the game. And yeah, how can you blame Carlos? Robert, you and I, we got on this podcast a couple of years ago when we thought the Astros should have made a bigger pitch, a better offer to Carlos Correa. They chose not to. So yeah, if you want to boo somebody, boo Jim Crane because, you know, he's the one that really decided, you know what? We're going to move forward with Jeremy Pena. Carlos went on to other things. It's just the nature of the game. And look, you know, think about how many big postseason hits Carlos Correa came up with the Astros. Where would the Astros be without those? So it's just how it is now. And yeah, he's on another team and you don't want him to come back and hurt you. But yeah, to boo him because he comes back in a different uniform, I don't get it.
He's never said anything but the right thing. He's Altuve's buddy.
Yeah, no, he is not bad-mouthing the Astros now that he's gone. Some players have gone and done that, sure. But Correa's not one of those guys. So, but there's always going to be a fan or two out there that's just going to have their own selfish opinion and do that.
Yeah, remember he got an offer and Crane didn't even bother calling him back, giving a counter offer, nothing. That was it.
But let me ask you this, Robert. How good does that look, at least right now? Because if you think about it, Correa hasn't exactly been the Correa that he was with the Astros. He's been battling some injuries. I understand that. The plantar fasciitis and, some other things going on. You may remember when he was with the Astros a few years ago, the back problems that made us wonder, how much more valuable is he going to be over the next few years? So think about that for a minute. The Astros, of course, couldn't have thought ahead as to what Correa would actually do. But at least as of now, he could come back and hurt them in this postseason, in this series for that matter, and we might change our mind. But maybe Crane knew what he was talking about.
We didn't need Jeremy Pena last year, did we?
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. Not.
Yeah, I just don't get it. I don't like, to me, if you boot him, you literally don't follow the team. Maybe these were Twin fans that snuck in and just booed him because they were trying to get him riled up. I don't know what that was all about, but that was just super strange. And I just do not understand it. To me, if you're an Astros fan and you boot him, or you're somebody that does the wave in the 7th or 8th inning for the Astros, get out. Get out. I don't want you.
Tired of the wave. Tired of it.
Yeah. And our Stephen, I think our fans are too smart for that, right?
No, I don't think our Houston Sports Podcast listeners are like that. So we're probably preaching to the choir here, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I would hope so. And Paige is with us, and she says no need to boo Carlos. And also, she mentioned the injuries that factored into not re-signing Carlos, of course, and it was all part of it. I guess, Stephen, is there anything that you're thinking about as we go into tomorrow? The good news for the Astros is you get more than 24 hours to prep, and maybe that helps the Twins because they lost. But I think maybe the Astros could use a little extra time, especially, you had to use a lot of Brian Abreu. And if you want to bring him back in the next game, any more rest that you can get him is good.
Yeah, absolutely you can. And, Phil Maton will be available. So you've still got some arrows to shoot in the bullpen. And, at least you didn't, at least Verlander wasn't so shaky that you had to take him out early, like in the 4th or 5th inning, and maybe have to go to somebody like one of your other starters that you put in the bullpen, Hunter Brown, JP France, or Jose Urquidy, somebody like that. So, you've still got those at your disposal. You got Fromber going tomorrow. Let's hope he's the good Fromber and can go 6 or 7 innings, because that really would help, Robert, because then, you wouldn't have to necessarily waste an Abreu again. You used Presley today, so, that's a bit tight, but he didn't throw that many pitches. You might be able to get away with him using him in the 9th again tomorrow. Yeah,
and just, one thing about the Astros, when you look at, what they've done in this postseason, nothing seems to really get to them, and it's been amazing. But, this is still a big win, Stephen, because to have a game like Verlander had, and if you had somehow lost that lead, remember the Astros, that strange Mariners game last year where we saw a lead fall pretty easily. If you lost that lead, it's a crushing. That's why we bring up that undefeated in game ones in the ALDS. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. And when you saw what the Twins did today, Robert, with, it looked like the game was going to be just about over when it was 5-0. And then all of a sudden you look up and they score 4 runs and they're back in the game. It's 5-4. It could be anybody's game. The Twins may not have the kind of offense that you would equate to, say, the Astros offense, but they can be explosive. Don't forget, they hit the 3rd most home runs in Major League Baseball. I think they had 233. So they can hit the long ball, and you get a couple of runners or so on base, and it can be a ball game. So winning a game like they did today, they hung on, and they got that big win. Tomorrow's another day. Anything could happen. So, let's not count the Twins out. They're definitely – they've got some dangerous bats in the lineup. And even some of these young guys like Royce Lewis didn't have, any postseason at-bats. He comes up in the Toronto series, hits a home run in his first at-bat. So, yeah, it's big when you can get that first win and kind of set you up to hopefully snatch the second one and go up 2-0 going to Minnesota.
I guess I'm going to have to apologize for calling Jose Abreu lazy, because Dusty Baker said after the game, Stephen, that Abreu has a big old lump on his leg, quote unquote, big old lump, which is part of the reason why he didn't slide on that play.
Well, that's true. He got hit on that foul ball on his shin. So, yeah, we did forget about that, because that had happened, when he ran, he got on base from that. That happened after he got hit in the leg. So, yeah, we really should apologize to Abreu for it. He wasn't running at his best, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's the playoffs, though, and with a big old lump on your leg, are you even thinking about that, Stephen? Are you thinking, I've got a lump, I'm not going to slide? I don't know.
Well, probably not. That still doesn't excuse it when he got tagged out in the third inning, though. He didn't have a lump on his leg when that happened. So, we can still partially get on him for that one.
Well, the TV broadcast crew credit him. They think he knew that play was going to be close and he was trying to draw the throw.
Possibly.
The pitcher did look disappointed that the throw didn't go through. And I don't know if he was disappointed he gave up the run, or disappointed that they didn't let the throw go through because they thought it would be a play at the plate.
Yeah. Well, at least they got the run. I mean, that was the good news out of that play.
Well, we will continue with the live post-game shows tomorrow with the Astros, but also live Texans post-game with Sports Radio 610, Sean Bajani, as we do every Sunday or every week, and mostly on Sunday with the Texans, because, they don't play much on Thursday or Monday nights these days. But make sure to tune in for that. Just really appreciate everybody that's listening and watching us. If you're not, subscribe to us on YouTube and put a comment down there if you're enjoying the show. We want to hear from you. Anything that you have to say that's positive, we really appreciate. As I said, we will be back. Me and Stephen will be back. We'll be here on a regular basis through the postseason, as we did all of last year through the postseason. Thousands of people watched us last year, and we hope to keep it going this year and thousands more. But again, thanks a bunch. Thanks to Stephen for all of his help. And Stephen, let's go out there and let's get another one tomorrow. How about that?
I'm all for that. And you're going to be a busy guy tomorrow. You got the Texans post game, the Astros post game. I can be greedy, can't I, Robert? Let's go 2 for 2. Let's see if the Texans can snatch one in Atlanta the way they've been playing lately.
All right. Yeah, we need to get that one against the Falcons. Let's make it 3-2. That would be fun. What a way to start October. How about that? Let's do it. All right. We'll talk to you guys later, and go Stros.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, don't forget to support us by subscribing and commenting on YouTube. You can always listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends about us and share our show links on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.